Well, here we are, everyone. Welcome to the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. I am Kim McLaughlin, your host, and I help people when they're feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, and overloaded, and it shows up in overeating. And today we have a special podcast because this is our 100th episode. We have done 100 episodes. I am thrilled. And thank you all for attending with us and for being part of this lovely journey. I am beyond grateful for what you all have done. We have today, it's called an Ask Him Anything, AKA Ask Him Anything podcast. And I have 4 questions that have been asked, and we're going to get into them and answer them. I think you're going to really enjoy the questions because when I looked at these questions, I thought, yeah, these are everybody's questions. So that will make it so amazing. I got a lot to say. I got a lot to talk about. I got a lot of questions. So let's get started. I want to invite you to really take seriously what we're going to talk about in this podcast and all the questions and all the answers that I have. I want to ask you, are you going to keep doing things the way that you've always done them and expect different results? You know, that's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I want to offer to you Emotional Eating Solutions. It is our signature program. It is a 8-week self-paced program that you go through all of the components for your emotional eating solutions. On top of that, we have a bonus that is through October, November, December, where we have weekly coaching talking about what are your struggles, what's going on for you, and giving you in the moment advice and ideas about what you can do. We have never offered weekly coaching like this, and we have never offered it over the holiday season. It is so important for you to take this information that we're talking about today in this 100th episode and find a way to do things differently. I really hope you join us in Emotional Eating Solutions. The link is in the show notes. It's also on our website, feedyoursoulunlimited.com. I look forward to talking with you and seeing you in Emotional Eating Solutions. So for this podcast, we have 4 different questions. I asked people to put in questions in advance, and I got them. There were some that put their name, and I asked people that if they were willing to share their name and if they were willing for me to share their name publicly. No last names, just first names. So I have some with names and some that are anonymous, just so you know that they're real people who really ask questions. When their name is there, they're ones that were, they gave me permission. So here we go. So Jennifer asked a question, which is a good question. I actually don't get asked this very much, but I have thought about it quite a bit. What are your thoughts on intermittent fasting, like a 16-8? She said that she had started it a couple of weeks ago and feels pretty good. It was hard at first, but it got easier. So what I want to do first is let's pull apart what's intuitive eating, what's intermittent fasting, how are they together, how do they work together, how do they work opposing each other. So let's go into a lot of that. They're really 2 different approaches to eating, to fueling your body. Intuitive eating is all about turning into the body's natural signals and telling you when it's time to eat, when it's time to stop, what you should eat, what you don't want to, what's not right for you, what are your right foods is what I call them. And it really encourages you to listen to your hunger, your fullness, your cravings, finding pleasure, all the things that create this really amazing eating experience. And it's also connected to being mindful and really flexible about the needs of your daily needs. What is your body needing that day? And it could have been different from the day before. And it also is a way of eating that really helps you mind, body, spirit. And so it's this other way of like being more in touch with your body and being more loving for yourself, loving on yourself. And we're going to talk about that more with some of the other questions we have today. but these are some of the basics of intuitive eating. And then on the other hand, intermittent fasting is about cycling between eating and fasting. It's in a lot of magazines. People talk about it on the internet a lot. First, I want to tell you that I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian. I don't proclaim that intermittent fasting is a great thing for you to do. I don't know. You should check out with your health professional, your dietitian, somebody who is knowledgeable about your body and what your body needs. Because intermittent fasting is a way of having weight loss. I've heard of it for insulin, and for people think it makes you healthy. But it also is really different from intuitive eating because they tell you when to eat and when to not eat. And what did Jennifer say? She said she did 16-8. So what that means is that she stops eating for 16 hours and she eats only for 8 hours. So let's say you wake up in the day and you start eating at 9, you end at 6 at night, and then you don't eat again until 9 in the morning. So it's really this kind of eating and fasting that people do. And some people really like it. And I think it's really very individual about what works for you. She said, what did Jennifer said? She said, she started it and it felt really good. And then it was hard at first. It's really a hard thing to do. I mean, if you consider just eating from 9 until 6 o'clock stopping, that's an interesting thing to do because it's often dinner time. And so how do you do that? You really have to plan your life around your intermittent fasting. I know people who do it. It works for some. I think it works in the short term, and it doesn't necessarily work in the long term. And what I would want you to do is to consider your intermittent fasting from an intuitive eating perspective and really examine what are the motivations behind your intermittent fasting. And when you're intermittent fasting, are you able to listen to your body's needs? Are you able to be connected to your hunger and your fullness? Are you able to eat literally when you're hungry? That if you're intermittent fasting and you stop eating at 6, what happens if you're hungry at 8? Also, are you using intermittent fasting as a tool for restriction or for weight control? Are you using it as a diet? I do know people who use it for their health and they think it works. So it's really very individual about really determining if this is going to work for you. I think back on when I was on Weight Watchers, and I remember the person who was in charge, the leader said, if you're hungry after all of your points are done, just go to bed. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to go to bed at 7 o'clock at night. This is ridiculous. That way of eating didn't work for me because it didn't honor my hunger. And intuitive eating want to honor our hunger. I just want to encourage you to look at what nourishes your body and honors the signals of when you're hungry, when you're full. And it can be hard when you have this restrictive, I start eating at this time and I stop eating at this time, because it doesn't really go with your hunger cues, or honoring that you can show your body, tell your body when it should and shouldn't eat, rather than your body telling you. It really creates this external rule and a prescription for eating. And I'm not going to tell anybody what are diets or what aren't diets, what are good for you, what are not good for you. I can tell you my experience. And I've tried some things with intermittent fasting, and I sometimes like the kind of like just waiting a little bit longer to not eat, or this kind of waiting a little longer. But I always eat when I'm hungry. I really take the tone of what does my body need and am I hungry? So the question to ask yourself with intermittent fasting about how it is for you is, does it feel like a diet? And really take a deep breath. If you're doing intermittent fasting or you're thinking of it, does it feel like a diet? Does it feel restrictive? Does it feel like it's all connected to losing weight or controlling food? And what we find is that when we control food, restrict it, control food, there will be a point in time where we have a binge, where we overeat. And that's what happens when we do this restrict and binge. There's a binge at some point in time. It could be a day, a week, a month, a year, but it does happen. So I just want you to question yourself, take a deep breath, and wonder what's intuitively right for you, and really begin to get in touch with what your needs are. Possibly eating like that fits your needs and fits your body, and is something that is a plan that really works for you, because really what we're looking for is an empowered relationship with food. Empowered relationship with food. So that's what I think. That's kind of I'm not going to tell anybody what to do, but I think this kind of gives you some overall ideas about what to look for and what you can do to see if that might work. So I have another question, and this is from Carolyn. She has a question that's a longer question, and then I kind of cut it down to the meat of it, so to speak. So she asked, I have worked on a program, I think that means a diet program, and lost 45 pounds. I have watched my mindset shift away from fear-based good and bad eating to more and more peaceful and sane patterns. Good. I 100% see how I used to use food like an addict would. I admit that as I think about easing into just living versus weight loss, I entertain worry about the possibility of old patterns reemerging in my future. Helpful counsel, ? And she says, I need a PhD in weight loss, as I have lost and gained weight my whole life. This sobriety from shame-based eating feels so valuable that I therefore keep thinking of a day-to-day approach to my relationship with food. Wow, that is a question with a lot. And so I synthesized it. I heard the question of is, how do I have a day-to-day approach to my relationship with food, living life versus weight loss? I love that, because it really helps you get into really seeing like, how would I do this if I had a good relationship with food? What might that look like? I thought of this idea of like, what happens if you woke up every day feeling empowered and embrace food? That you make food choices that fit for your body, that fit your needs, that give you energy to do the things you need to do, rather than what this diet guru, this diet book, this diet blog tells you what to do. So it's like moving off of the have tos and into I choose to with food, and having food in a peaceful place in your life. It's a peaceful relationship with food. First, what I was thinking of is look at breaking away from the burden of dieting and embrace a new perspective. This is a lot. This is something that I talk about a lot on the podcast with my clients, because we have all, me included, have bought into this idea that we have to lose weight, that we have to control our food, and that we have to be afraid of food, right? And what we're talking about in intuitive eating is nourishing your body, listening to your body's cues, and looking for food satisfaction, and really healing your relationship with your body in terms of what food you put in it, but also how you view your body. And this is part of a mindset that leads to what I call food freedom. So it's freedom with food, where you're not feeling afraid all the time of what you can and can't eat, should and shouldn't eat. We don't use those words. I always say, what is right for you? What is your right food? What we want to do then is start enveloping the idea of intuitive eating, which leads us into our body wisdom, which is antithetical. It is opposite to what we've been taught. We've been taught that there's a right meal plan, there's a right calorie count, there's a right points, there are right macros, and that we disavow any idea of hunger or fullness or food satisfaction. That really, it's like we're told what to eat. We have been doing that, I don't know for you guys, but 10, 20, 30 plus years. People I talk to, some of them started when they were young children, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. This has been going on. So you have a lot of years of not listening to your body and listening to a diet telling you what to eat. So what do we do then to start getting back in touch with our body is ask this this is such a good question. Pause, take a deep breath and say, am I hungry? Am I hungry? And in Emotional Eating Solutions, my course that we actually have running right now that is going into a live round, we talk about this a lot because this is really something on a daily basis to really dig into, am I hungry? And then also, what foods might satisfy my need? What are my right foods? And you honor your body's signals and cues about when you need to eat and what you need to eat. What's hard, I know, is that people get really scared that, well, Kim, if I just go with what I want to have, my cravings, then I'll overeat. Then I'll eat cookie dough all day. That's my thing. If I could, that would be my thing, is cookie dough. Oh my God. So it would be something like that. And like what I can tell you 100% certainty is that the more you practice intuitive eating, the more you're mindful and asking, what is my right food? Am I really hungry? What is my right food? Am I satisfied? Am I full? That then I can have cookie dough in the house for days and days and days, and I don't eat it because I don't care, because I could have it if I want it. But when I check into my body, that's not what my body's asking for. My body doesn't ask for that every day, all the time. And I know that is the fear about getting back in touch with our body, is that we're going to just overeat and take in everything that's around. And it doesn't work that way. It might happen for a little bit because you have not allowed yourself to fully and freely eat what you want, but it stops. I promise it stops. So that's the first thing you can do. And the second thing you can do is start looking at food pleasure. Are you enjoying your food? Are you savoring your food? Are you sitting down with your food? Are you experiencing all of the tastes and the yumminess of your food? Because when we are used to dieting, we don't experience the flavors, textures, aromas of the food. We get into what's prescribed that we eat. And we get afraid to eat food that gives us pleasure, that has food pleasure. We get afraid because we think we're going to overeat it, right? So a simple question to ask yourself is, am I enjoying this food? Am I enjoying this food? I've had it sometimes where like, I'll start to get something to eat and it's like, that's not what I really want. That's not part of my needs for food satisfaction. So if we're going to get into action about how we do this, right? That was really what the question was about. How do you incorporate intuitive eating into the day-to-day approach to your life, right? So first, I think it's important to start surrounding yourself with people who do this, who talk about this. Get in supportive communities. There is my free Facebook group, Feed Your Soul Community. It's a free community and it'll be linked in the show notes. It is something that you can join for free. And we talk about intuitive eating. We support intuitive eating. It's a great place to get that different look on food and different look on your life. And the other thing you can do is seek out resources, books, podcasts, blogs, things that talk about intuitive eating that really move off of that diet mindset. And if you want, send me an email. I'll send you a list of podcasts beyond mine that I listen to other people. I get so inspired by other intuitive eating counselors and coaches and nutritionists because they inspire me to look at food differently still. I love it. So get connected with other resources. Also get a supportive counselor, coach, registered dietitian who specializes in intuitive eating, who can help guide you on this intuitive eating progress, plan, way of being. You can email me. We have Emotional Eating Solutions. It's my 8-week course where we talk about all things having to do with intuitive eating and weekly practices. We're just starting in October, 8 weeks of what I call the live round. So we're doing live coaching every week for everybody in the community to come and get your questions answered, talk about struggles, talk about what's really going on, and really get that joy from intuitive eating that really can affect your day-to-day life and relationship with food. So Emotional Eating Solutions is linked in the show notes, or you can go to my website, feedyoursoulunlimited.com, and just go to the Emotional Eating Solutions link and you can sign up right now. So the third question, I'm just going to move through these because they're just so good. It came anonymous. So what they asked was, how can I reframe my perspective on food and nourishment to prioritize overall well-being rather than weight loss? Wow, that is a good one. This is where we're talking about having food that is part of our nourishment, part of our overall health. Because I think about food and I ask, is this food going to give me the fuel to do the things I need to do? I say that a lot. And it's because what I find and why I say that is like, I tend to choose different food if I'm going to go out hiking, as opposed to if I'm going to sit in the movie theater. I don't know about for you, but for me, that's what I start thinking of is like, what is my right food if I'm going to be sitting down for a couple of hours? What is my food if I'm going to be really active? Because for me, I have found in my intuitive eating process that there are different kinds of foods that work for me. And so I think about that for myself. It's about what is the nourishment that I need? What is the energy that I need? But also what is the pleasure that I need? What is it that's going to make that happen? And truthfully, I find eating a lovely salad. I just had a gorgeous salad for lunch before I came on here, and it was gorgeous. I didn't want anything besides that. That was exactly what I wanted. It was yummy. It was filling. It had all the nutrients because I was hungry enough. I normally actually don't eat before I go speak or do podcasts because I don't, because I get a little nervous. But today I was too hungry. I needed to eat before I came in here and to talk to all of you. So I ate. And so for me, food pleasure, it's about what fits for my body right now. It's not having to have something sweet or salty or fatty or whatever it is, the things that we think that are off limits. It's about what is going to be right for my body right now. So here's some questions that you can start asking yourself. I always like us to have some doables. Because how do we start doing this? One is beginning to ask yourself, how can I honor my body, nurture it with nourishing foods that support my well-being? I love that question. How can I honor my body, nurture it with nourishing foods that support my well-being? How can I savor each bite, finding joy in the flavors and textures? Wow. How can I support myself fully, mind, body, spirit? It's about all those pieces coming together. What happens is that you start having these inquiries, these kind of questioning of yourself, and that really does lead you into what you want to do. I think also it becomes about challenging the status quo of the diet culture, the diet industry. It's made billions and billions, 60 billion. I don't know where it's at right now. It's made a lot of money off of us. And literally that diet industry has brainwashed us to make us think we have to be a certain weight. We have to be a certain weight to be healthy, to be worthy, to be accepted. And we've really been told that as a way to manage us and make us diminish us. I think that's a better word, diminish us, and have us think that we're wrong, that something's wrong with us unless we diet or lose weight. And I am into having a healthy, vibrant relationship with my body and with food, really challenging that status quo of the diet culture. This is the point where you can start examining your relationship to diets and weight loss. I ask my clients in Emotional Eating Solutions, we talk about, at what age did you start to diet? What diets have you been on? How much did you lose? How much did you gain weight? And it becomes this way of acknowledging maybe that doesn't work. And maybe we could do something different. I acknowledge that it can be scary to think about doing this. And this is again where we get back to the seek out somebody to help you, do this intuitive eating road journey. I don't always like the term journey because that reminds me of the weight loss journey, but you don't have to do this alone. It's been so ingrained in us that we really need sometimes some extra help to get out of that mindset that we've really been, that's been targeted at us in marketing to have us think a certain way about our body, to not like our body really. So here is the fourth and last question that I have. It is a good one and a basic one that I really like, and it's by Anonymous. What the person said is, what is intuitive eating and how can it help me develop a healthier relationship with food? We've been talking about this today in the podcast. It's a lot about a different way of looking at food, moving off dieting, moving off the quick fix. And it's a different way of looking at food, weight, bodies, emotions, mindset, all these things around food. We do it differently. It's really about getting back in touch with your body's internal cues, utilizing your body's hunger and fullness signals, and making choices with food from a place of what you really need. This is a way of eating that's not restrictive. So how do you know if you're dieting? Does it feel restrictive? Does it feel like you have to do it a certain way? The hard part about intuitive eating is that it's about trusting your body's signals. The body signals are really what we had when we were little. And at some point we lost the ability to recognize our hunger and fullness and to really listen to our body's needs. It happened a long time ago, generally for everybody. We tune out from what our body's telling us. So in intuitive eating, we're talking about turning back in. And that's really hard to do when you've been sold that idea that you have to be told what you should eat. The first thing is, how do we learn about intuitive eating? It's not restrictive. It relies on your body's internal needs. Second is really big. And this we talk about a lot on this podcast. You can go back and listen to, we're on our 100th episode, like we have a lot of them. But it's not just about food. I would say it's about the food, but it's not about the food. It's really about your mind, body, spirit. And this transformation that is it's like moving to your own goodness through the food. The food was the place to start. And now we can use it as a way to recognize our body's needs. So it becomes this place of learning about your physical, your emotional, your mental, the lifestyle, which are all the things that have to do with society and holidays and food or employment, where you're employed, your school, and things like that, kind of that social aspect. And then mindfulness, which is about that spiritual inner knowing. And then the last one's about self-love. And I think if you all check in with yourself, that when we've had difficulty with food, we've had difficulty with our body, and we've had difficulty with self-love. And that's what we talk about in intuitive eating, is how do we start loving ourselves no matter what our size is? Your size is exactly the way it is today. You cannot love yourself into a different state in your body. You can't. You can't hate yourself. I said it wrong. You can't hate yourself into another way of being in your body. You have to love yourself into being different and experiencing food differently. So what are some of the ideas for the path to intuitive eating? Start listening to your body, right? What is your body needing? Take a deep breath and listen. Follow those body signals. What is your body telling you to do? Start embracing it. Yes, I know it might say things to eat things that you think are off limits. Then wonder what that's about. Is it because you've been restricting for so long and your body just really wants it? I don't know. The third would be release external rules. The rules about the have-tos. I always say there's no have-tos. There's no shoulds. It's what are my right foods? What's my right way of eating today? And lastly, on your path to intuitive eating is look for a support group. people who understand intuitive eating to start helping you embrace it. Listen to this podcast more. Go to my free Feed Your Soul community page. Join us in Emotional Eating Solutions. Find a way to get people around you that really support this way of being. We are looking for an empowered place with food where we're nourished, peaceful, and totally free of guilt and shame. That was a lot, you guys. That was a lot in our 100th episode. Thank you so much for coming. I hope that you will do me a favor and subscribe to this podcast. Leave a review, 5-star review. I'd love it, please. And share this with people that are struggling with food, because together we can spread this message about intuitive eating to everybody. And that is what I am all in for. And I'm all in for us being on this path where we fully support each other and have freedom with food. Thank you all so much for joining me for the 100th episode of the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. I appreciate you all, and I look forward to talking with you later. Bye-bye.